Hello, hello, it is Dream, and today I am here to talk about the new roadmap that was just unveiled during today's live stream for Global's version of COTC. Now, if you have not seen, a lot of people on Twitter, Reddit, Discords, they're pretty up in arms about this release, and so I'm here to talk about it, give context, and, run you guys through everything that's happening right now, and then give my thoughts and opinions on it. So let's get into the roadmap itself. So right now, obviously, we are in the middle of Live Alive collab. They announced the part 2. We knew the part 2 was coming. It's no secret. JP added as well. So we knew that was going to happen. And then they had already previously announced if you beat Bestower of All 8, that the epilogue was going to start at the end of July. And then obviously that lines up with our second anniversary. So the end of the BOA story and second anniversary was going to be what the end of this month was. Those were pretty solid things. I bring them up in a community post that I made about 2 months ago, where I talk about, basically we're reaching the end. All the characters that will be released before 3.0 are basically already slated in what they've, revealed to us early before this roadmap even came out. So we have Live Alive, we have Sazantos and Signa coming out with the 2-year anniversary. You can see their shadows right here. This was no surprise. This was things we were expecting. This is also, again, coming with the start of the epilogue of Bestower of All, along with Elite Training Floor 4. And then basically after that, nothing. Epilogue is being split into 2 parts. I have no idea why. Not only is it being split into 2 parts, but it's 2.5 months long. When realistically, it could have been shortened to just line up with our second anniversary event. It didn't need to be 3 or 4 times as long as it should have been. And then the Emberflame story, I was expecting to be the gap happening after our epilogue. And then for that Emberflame story to complete, and then for 3.0 to basically be the next big piece of content that I was expecting sometime in September, based off of my speculations and thoughts about characters. The reason for this is that by the time this second anniversary shown right here ends, we will have every single unit pre 3.0, which means that unless they start giving us Twin Worlds banners before there's Twin Worlds, or Celestia Memory Travelers before there's Celestia, or even going way in the future and giving us units that are technically MTs from our current continent, Shauna and Tizano, giving them way early before there's TP, before there's 6-star, would just feel really, really weird. So basically everyone's looking at this and going, 3.0 is not only not early, but it looks like it's delayed in comparison to JP's release. They're pushing it back for seemingly no reason, and during that entire pushback, we are having adversary logs and special tasks. And that's it. That's all the content that we're essentially getting for a 3-month period. So very obviously, this upset the entire community. Everyone was expecting to hear good news today, me included, and instead we got worse news than what was projected. If 3.0 was on this map for September, it would have been okay, the community's split. I see why. I would personally be in the camp of, I see why they laid it out like this. They stretched everything back so they could line up Sazantos with second anniversary. They wanted a big hype thing to be happening in our 2-year. That makes sense, because they would have had to push stuff significantly further forward already to have made 3.0 our 2-year anniversary, right? That's the camp I would have been in. But there still would have been people who, even given that, would have been we stagnated too long. It shouldn't have been pushed back to line up like this in the first place. And they would have valid points, right? But instead, all of us were wrong. And we're all upset instead. Because everything is delayed, everything is late. And even in the thought of this not 3.0 not coming in September, we don't even know that it's coming in November. Right? We don't have the news of what's happening after October. Okay. So basically that's the roadmap. That's why everyone's mad. That's the context around it. So you can see today there has been a bunch of memes and serious conversation, I would say, going along on the COTC Reddit. And this is all basically coming into a mega thread now where everyone's giving their serious thoughts and comments and stuff inside the thread that Prim made, our glorious co-host of the Octopod podcast, along with, I think Potato was the other main contributor of writing this up. They've been writing this up for a while now, but basically waited till today, till it was confirmed that, EN wasn't going to be going at the speed that Taiwan or China or C is going. to basically point out all of the things wrong with our current speed and why it's detrimental to the game and all of that. And then everyone, of course, giving their opinions in the community. And so that's basically the shitstorm that happened today and what's going on. So I recommend going to the Reddit thread itself. I will be linking it in the description down below and reading it for yourself. But for those of you guys that are too lazy to do that, because I understand, I'm going to do a quick TLDR of it real quick. All of the other servers that have released since EN look like they're on an expedited pace to catch up to JP or hang around them a few months behind them, which is what we originally thought EN's goal was before we started massively slowing down during Bestower of All 7/8. It's basically saying we are too far away from JP now, and there are two consequences that are hurting this game's revenue and community engagement. The first being that it's hard to justify pulling on a unit when we already know its lifespan. We already know the unit that's coming up next that is going to power creep that thing, that's going to move the meta in a different direction, and it makes it hard for free-to-play players to want to spend all of their rubies they have right now making something like a Swords of the Continent, like they had been hyped up to do so this entire time for the last few months, and then to just see how crazy axe meta gets, how crazy dagger meta gets, how crazy bow meta gets, right? And it's, you see all of these things hanging in front of you, but they're like a year into the future. So optimally, of course, the optimal option is almost always just wait. Just wait for the stronger units. You can go back and clear the old content with stronger units, and you're going to be in a better spot. But then you're just not playing the content for a year. You're just not engaging with the game in the same healthy way that you would have if you had just pulled on your hype good units that are good for their time period, and then like not having as much future sight because of how big the gap is, basically. I'm not saying having future sight is bad. And of course, I'm a big proponent of knowing what's coming in the future. That's why we released the octopods and all of that stuff. It was basically just to give insight to players so they can make more informed choices. However, that when there's too big of a gap, that informed choice can become detrimental to not only the health of the game, but to your player experience. And then number two is that with new game mechanics like TP, quality of life, and 6-star, it makes people not want to engage with the current functions and just hoard and basically wait for those things to come out again too. So like right now, there's a lot of people I know in the community that just don't run Dragonboard because we don't have the 99 tickets at a time thing yet. So none of them have weapons that are built. So they don't go out of their way to build weapons for the fights. So they're behind in all of their refights. They aren't really engaging with the content. And so if you're not really engaging with the refight content, then they will literally have nothing to do for the 3 months after second anniversary for those kind of players, right? And that's because we have the foresight to know that quality of life is coming, but that it hasn't come yet, right? And so in their minds, it's wasted effort to do it now, when in reality, that is a harmful thing to the game, right? This is just an example. And then the other things he brings up are basically questions and answers. If we speed up, wouldn't that mean we have less rubies to pull on banners? Well, there's no way to know for sure, he says. This will most likely not be an issue because if we sped up, we would still get the rubies from the contents and big events that come out, along with the solution for the Taiwan server specifically being that they lowered their pity on banners. So general pool is always 100 pity. Sacred Blaze banners are 150 pity instead of 200, that kind of thing. So if EN was to go into an accelerated mode and they gave us those kind of pity numbers, I don't think anyone would be upset, right? We're still getting, the only thing we're losing is basically the daily ruby stacking. Everything else, the majority of the rubies you get from the game are from tasks, from events, and from like clearing content. That is where the vast majority of your rubies come from. So it shouldn't be that big of a problem if we start moving back at like even just the 1.5 times speed with the ideal of catching up to JP at some point. That's all cool and all, but don't we have the same problem once we catch up to JP is the next question. And the answer is no, because then we won't have the insane foresight we have, and we can actually just be excited about the characters and the metas that are out in the moment. So like right now, if JP just gets seed story stuff or side story stuff for 2 months in a row, it's not going to be not exciting to play JP because stuff like Tizano comes out, stuff like Kaine comes out. You know what I mean? That's the thing that keeps the game healthy and exciting and making you want to play, want to pull, and generate revenue to keep this game alive, right? So the closer we get to JP, the more exciting the gotcha element of the game becomes to EM, basically. Are you being dramatic is the next question. Isn't the problem not really that bad? And the short answer for that question is basically just the life of a gotcha game like this is entirely decided by community engagement and community like revenue, spending, right? As long as you keep the game and the community healthy, you make the players want to stay and spend and play on it, the game will, that's how it sustains itself. So when you put a giant stagnation period in the game, then you're basically just letting it die during those 3 months. You're actively letting it die. And that is the biggest detriment that you can have to a game of this type. And so on that note, there's been some people, content creators, either in their own videos or even in the comments of this thread, have basically brought up the idea that EOS is now a fear for EN. That they don't care about the game anymore, and that's why our roadmap looks like that, or that this 3-month period will have such a dramatic effect on EN that we're going to EOS. End of service, all of that stuff. If you guys have been around the community for a while, you would know that we basically get a EOS fear thread every single month on the Reddit, and it becomes a topic of conversation basically every single month. And so I just wanted to put my little 2 cents into the EOS part of this conversation real quick in this video. So if you go to gotcharevenue.com, it's a site that covers a bunch of the most popular gacha games and their revenues over time. Using Sensor Tower data, which isn't the most pure, right? It's not exact numbers. Only Square Enix knows what they exactly make. But based off of Play Store interactions and stuff like that, Sensor Tower can guesstimate about what a game makes every single month, and they release it to their subscribers on their website. And so this guy basically takes those posts every single month and puts them into little charts like this, so you can see the health or the revenue health of a game over a time period. So as you can see here, ever since 3.0 started in JP, the game has seen a big spike in revenue. 1 mil, 1 mil, 1.2 mil, and then it basically hovers depending on how hype a given unit is or what events are going on around the time, right? So you can see this is a very, very healthy income for a game as niche as Octopath, right? Not only is this super healthy, and what I mean by super healthy, to put it in comparison, Nier Reincarnation is a game that recently EOS'd, right? That game EOS'd after 2 years of having under 200k revenue from JP and 50k revenue from EN. It ran for 2 years like that at 200k. Okay, that means that Square Enix this year has made more money off of Octopath than it probably made in its entire history of Nier Reincarnation. So I do not think from a revenue standpoint, JP is going anywhere. And then on that note, EN, not the big, but not the big spenders that Asia is in gacha games, of course, but we're not going anywhere. We've been at a steady amount of revenue as well on the EN side. I think C is a little bit below this, but even knowing that C would be below EN, they still chose to make a C server. They've made a China server where they're giving their own exclusive content because China's having a giant gacha boom right now. And so they're trying to capitalize on that market. So realistically, I do not think this game is in danger of EOSing in any region anytime soon. If anything, they are just putting more, they're showing signs that the game is more alive than ever by releasing it in more territories with exclusive buffs, with different things and that kind of thing. I don't think this game is in danger of EOSing, but that isn't to undercut the idea that a 3-month stagnation period in EN could have detrimental effects to the EN community. I think if everyone who's really upset does actually end up quitting this game from in that 3-month period of dead time, and none of them come back for 3.0, I think EN's revenue will probably drop a lot, but I think it'll still be more profitable to just translate it to English and ship it off than to not do that. Do you know what I mean? Even if we only make them $1 million in all of 2025, right? It probably didn't cost $1 million to translate it to English and give it to us, right? So I don't think that EOS is a problem for JP especially. I think that them releasing in other regions that have lower revenue, if you've played any of these Square Enix gachas before, Sinnoh Alice, Nier Reincarnation, stuff like that have EOS'd, C is always the first server to go. C is the canary in the coal mine, if you will. And that's even usually with a year gap. So let's say this game does, that it does die, right? All gacha games die. Let's say it does die. C will be the first to die. Then 8 months later, EN will die. So basically, I would say do not be scared that this game is actually going to EOS. The game is doing perfectly healthy revenue-wise, and as long as they listen to our feedback and they speed up this timeline, I don't see any of that revenue going down, right? That EN being slow is not going to hurt JP's revenue, and then EN being slow will only hurt like that section of it. Once 3.0 comes out, I'm sure people are going to spend. It's going to go right back up into the 300, 400Ks, right? But that won't undo the damage that 3 months did, is all that I'm saying. I don't want to see them inflict a giant wound on the community for no reason. However, that being said, I don't think that wound will be fatal to the point of EOS, no matter what. So I just want to get that out of the way. Everyone that's fear-mongering about EOS, I think they're completely wrong. I don't think they've looked at any of the data. I don't think they have any experience with any of the other gotchas and seen their revenues, all of that kind of stuff. So I just want to get that out there. EOS is probably not a concern right now. And if it was, again, we have the canary in the coal mine that will show us when it's coming. And then finally, at the bottom of this thread, you have convinced me, but how do we make sure the devs listen to us? A call for speed up on the Discord or in replies to the official COTC Facebook and Twitter posts. If we are vocal enough about our concerns, hopefully we can see some change like they did with the Bravely default banners or the Barg/Sonya banners. The devs themselves have made changes twice in the past, giving us compensation for things that upset the EN community in the past. So we are hoping that all of you watching this video who care or reading the Reddit thread who care will go to the official pages, comment your feedback, let your voice be heard, and let them know so that way Dan and Limit can package all of that up and send it off to the devs so that the devs know how much it matters to us, that we start catching up with JP as soon as possible, and that we don't let our community die off and stagnate in the periods in between hyper releases. All of the links will be in the description down below. As you can see, I have already myself gone to this page and left a tweet. I posted, pretty disappointed with the pacing laid out in this roadmap. I understand wanting to line up second anniversary with the epilogue, but making the epilogue stretch 2.5 months is wild. I hope that the community feedback is addressed in the next tavern talk later in like 2 weeks from now, and that the pacing is sped up. So that's what I posted. If you want to post something similar to it or give your own unique feedback, please go do it in the official channels, and please do it respectfully. Dan and Limit are super cool community managers. Do not make their job harder than it needs to be. Give them your feedback nicely. They will package it up and they will send it off to the devs. You don't have to be upset to show how much you care. Going and just letting them know you care is enough. If we can do this at scale, we can make sure that they understand how much we care, okay? That's how we show how much we care, is doing this on scale, not doing it in the meanest, most vengeful way possible, okay? So be nice to our guys out there. Thank you so much for watching. I have been Dream. Until next time, stay safe, stay cute. Much love. Abu, ayaya.